Welcome to the Post Racing Podcast with Ron Robinson and Sean Travass. Post Racing, the site for winners.
What off? How you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm looking at the racing for this afternoon. Today's Friday, as we record this.
Yeah.
For anyone who listens on another day, I'm thinking Fridays used to be pretty good stuff on the build up to the weekend, if memory serves.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Not today, I think would be a fair thing to say.
I think
Pretty
summing it up nicely, yeah.
pretty ropey, but it is what it is, and the reason it's ropey is because we're all building up to Cheltenham. We're all looking for clues and past historical events and words from various trainers, and
Yeah.
I've just saying Ron before we went on air, I've got 4 stable trips to go to in the next 2 weeks to see what the trainers think about their chances with various runners, which we'll keep you updated with as and when. It's an exciting time of year looking forward. Not that exciting on the day, though, is it really? But never mind. We have to start with what I genuinely think is very sad news this week. And Ron put this podcast list together, but I would have.
Yeah, it's my fault.
I would have insisted this was in it anyway, to be honest with you. The very, very sad passing of Joe Saumarez Smith in the week of the Big C. No need to go into any further details than that, other than he worked pretty much up to the very end. He realised he was ill, and then basically went early at the end of January, and then a matter of days, unfortunately, he's passed away. I've seen a lot of criticism on so-called social media. There are times and places, ladies and gentlemen, to criticise people, and when someone's just passed away, that isn't one of them.
No, it's not.
Not as far as I'm concerned. I'm old school like that. I think he got given a load of stick. Some of it deserved, some of it not. Generally, I met him a few times. He was polite, he was amicable, and he knew what he was talking about. Don't anyone ever tell you otherwise. He knew racing inside out. I just think it's very sad. I think personally, anyone who's in charge of the BHA, as I've written down here, their hands are tied.
Oh, they are, yeah.
They don't have the power. I can't say it for certain. I wouldn't dream of it that Joe would have liked to have done X, Y, or Z if he'd been allowed to. But the bottom line is this tripartite system that involves the horsemen's group and the race courses, etc. At least whoever's in charge of the BHA, having to basically try and make the peace with everybody to get anything done. And I can't think of a single example, or well, probably one or two, but the main things we'd all like to change are going to hit somebody pretty hard. They're going to hit the race courses if we cut the fixtures. They're going to hit the trainers if we cut the amount of runners. They're going to hit the horsemen if we say we want to reduce the prize money. Somebody is going to be hit by it, and therefore it was almost impossible for him to get anyone around the table to come to any concrete positive decisions. But
nobody wants to give up any slice of their own pie, do they?
No, they don't. I should shut up there actually, because I'd be quite interested in anything you've got to say, because obviously I deal with the BHA quite a lot.
Yeah,
they would probably tell you more than they would like me to. But that's another story. What did you think of his tenure? Any comments you'd like to make?
Do you know I've always been so busy with the actual racing side of racing that I've never got involved in the politics of it until we basically started doing podcasts.
Yeah,
I knew of him, but I didn't know exactly who he was and what he did, and I basically put in my blurb before we started. Well, I'm sure you know more about the man. From and everything I know is what I've read. But you've met the man, and you know he had a passion for the sport. You can tell by reading the comments that leading journalists in Racing Post and yourself and others in the sport. They're all to a man basically saying this guy was a top bloke for racing, and he didn't just spread the word around this country. He went worldwide with our racing, trying to get people interested and invested in horse racing in the UK. He's 53 years of age. It just seems such a great loss, doesn't it?
It's not even a number. It's just. I'm sure a large percentage. I won't say all of you. I don't want to insult anyone. There'll be enough of you listening out there that are older than 53, same as Ron and I both are.
Yeah.
And you see that number and you go, ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a bit nasty. If you want to make a mark of the man, the fact that he worked all the way up to January, he's been ill for a very long time. And at the end of the day, without wishing to appear rude to him or his family, there becomes a point when money can't matter, can it, really?
No.
And yet, so it wasn't about the money, yet he carried on working to as close to the end as he possibly could.
He did.
On behalf of the sport. So if you want to sit there and slag him off, as some have done, then I'm afraid you won't get me on your side.
Yeah.
What comes out in the wash in the long term, and good luck to Lord Allen, who's going to try and take over and fill his shoes.
Yeah.
Best of luck with that one. I don't know the guy. I haven't met him. Maybe never will. I mean, I only saw Joe a few times. I can't pretend we were friends or anything like that. But he was amicable enough and willing to talk. He didn't talk down to anyone that I saw. He knew what he was talking about, and he worked to the bitter end, literally, for the sport that we love. And everyone in a position at the top like that just seems to be there for some flack these days, and not for any thanks. It's a thankless task. But my best wishes, obviously, as Ron's do, I'm sure, go out to his family and friends. He's going to be hard to replace. It's just a very sad day. It's a very sad. Let's move on, because I don't want to brush away a tear, because thank God we're not doing YouTube. Yeah. Let's get on to something that's I can't say it's worse, different then, shall we? Reading these things that have been done by MPs and stuff, and all the things.
Oh yeah, well, I've actually titled this little segment "The Ignorance of Those Politicians Making Decisions on Betting and Gambling." Probably the same thing, but I've called it betting and gambling. Now, I actually sat back afterwards, because I've been reading articles on this all week in preparation for the podcast, and it seems to me they're doing this deliberately. They're being provocative with certain stats and all the rest of it. And I sent you some snippets of what went on at it's not the House of Commons. What is it called? The Halls of Westminster or something, isn't it?
Yeah. Same place as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
These clowns, for want of a better description, they all get together and they're giving their opinion on something that is basically just their own opinion. And so you had a doctor who was also an MP, I believe, standing up and saying that in her opinion, it's a public health issue. Having a bet now is a public health issue. This is a Dr. Becky Cooper, Labour, by the way, and she was the first to talk about public health. She says, "Does my honourable friend agree with my perspective as a public health doctor that there is now a need for population level interventions?" Now, she never provided any evidence to back that statement up, but that was just what seemed to be going round those halls on last Wednesday. It was people voicing an opinion based on nothing but what was in their own heads. They'd done no research. They were just standing up, and words were coming out of the mouth with absolutely diddly to back them up. I don't understand. How did these people get these jobs?
The first thing that I hadn't even written down was when you said that, was the fact that they're described as, well, the honourable science. If you've ever met the less honourable bunch of people than any politicians, I have no idea where you've been searching around. You must have been crawling under some rocks somewhere. I've started mine by saying, I've actually, in the last couple of years, I've been dealing with MPs and ministers on a regular basis. And although some, I have to say, appear grounded and generally interested, the vast majority are as thick as, and the first word's pig and the second word rhymes with Brad Pitt. So you can work that one out for yourself. It's a family show, etc., etc. If you think that's wrong, have a look at some of the stuff they've come up with. They've come up with statistics they've made up. They've come up with discredited statistics that they're quoting that others are saying and shouldn't be used. Now, I was brought up with the maximum. If you don't have anything worth saying, say nothing.
Say nothing.
But this lot, they're jumping on the politically correct anti-gambling bandwagon.
Yep.
They're coming from a position of ignorance 9 times out of 10. Now, again, we've had this conversation, so I'm only repeating myself week on week, if you like. The world has revolved into a black versus white, and I don't mean colour of skin. You're either on one side of the equation or you're on the other, where the reality is always somewhere down the middle. It's the right place to be. And so you're now either pro-gambling and you should be allowed to lose your house, ridiculous, or you're completely anti-gambling and you shouldn't be allowed to have 10p, equally ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're jumping on this. They're calling it, as you said, cancer in our society. Really, well, that comes over as attention-seeking more than realistic. I've never argued that we need to do something to protect problem gamblers, not from the start. I've not necessarily agreed with their answers and the way they're doing affordability checks. There's more of that later. But you can't argue that people who need protecting should be protected. You should try and help them. I have no argument against that. But compare the losses to obesity or drug addiction, alcoholism, and my personal favourite, you want people with mental. What about these high interest short term loans you see on the TV? Borrow £200 till payday, and you look in the bottom corner, it's 1,000%.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to do anything about that because that's not important. What about the bloke who lost £15 on a £1 lucky 15 on Saturday? Yeah. That's the one we want to really go after. Well, what a bloody load of nonsense, excuse my language. Where are they coming from? Other than vote winning amongst those who don't have a bet, never had a bet, never will have a bet, the moral minority, as far as I can tell, why they're doing this is totally beyond me. They're not discussing it with anyone, and they're just coming up with pie in the sky nonsense at every opportunity they get. Have I ranted enough there, Ron? Have I?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm. Do you know what? At the moment, I'm looking at what those snippets that I sent you. After first admitting to having, in inverted commas, very little expertise about gambling, Lord Brown spoke of gambling as a cancer in our society today. This Dr. Becky Cooper went on to say later, it's an addiction, pure and simple. And she offered no context or evidence, but instead basically just made a blanket statement that wrapped up somebody who goes in and has a couple of quid on a horse in the Grand National with somebody who genuinely does have a gambling problem. We know these people exist. Sure. But what these MPs were saying is everybody that has a bet is one of these people in dire straits. It's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
Do any of these MPs hold stocks and shares?
I bet they do. Is
that not a gamble?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not gambling.
Even if you take out an endowment insurance policy, the small print at the bottom says you may lose more than you invest.
Yeah. So it's a gamble. It's cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
It's crypto. Crypto not a gamble. Yeah, it is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
What about the lottery? That's funded. The government-run lottery. Is that not a gamble? At the end of the day, they're picking on certain aspects and not looking at the overall picture, and that's what annoys me. I've always been a great believer in fairness and equality for all. I genuinely have, and everyone should be treated the same. And that's so you can go spend £200 on lottery tickets. That's fine, but you can't spend £10 on a bet on the horses.
Yeah.
And again, they're using that word gambling. Now, Ron knows, I know, and I think we've discussed it many times. We would both like to see racing or sports betting actually, but racing particularly separated away. Casinos and slot machines are easily the most harmful gambling that there is.
They are, yeah.
That is a proven fact. Walk past your local. There's a challenge for anyone who's listening. When you walk past your local bookmaker, take a photo of the front window and send it to Ron. There you go, Ron.
Yeah.
Keep you busy, because I guarantee I've done it just out of interest when I've been walking by, and all they're interesting is advertising is the casinos, the slots, and the slot machines inside their branches. There is nothing on the outside about horse racing, dog racing, football betting, nothing at all. Only about the slots and the casinos. Yeah, because that's where their cash cow and money maker is, and that's where the problem lies.
Yeah,
with the problem gambler. It's not. I won't say it's nothing to do with horse racing. If you've got a problem, you're going to gamble on whatever you feel you need to gamble on.
Yeah.
But
I think that the people who are to blame here are the Gambling Commission, because what they've done is that they created a survey called the Gambling Survey of Great Britain, and they came up with some figures about 2.5% of the people that were interviewed as part of the survey were deemed to have some sort of a problem with gambling. And then what these people have done is, and despite being told by the Gambling Commission not to do this isn't what the figures represent, they've gone ahead and done it anyway. And they've made it a population-based survey. So what they've then done is said, right, well, 2.5% of the entire population has a gambling problem, when it's nothing like that much. I think the NHS, which was basically what they classed that as the gold standard survey, came up with 0.4% of people in the UK have a gambling problem, which is a far cry from 2.1%. But it didn't matter. You've got other organisations now.
Carry on, that's my phone ring. I apologise. I've got it somehow. I've got it on silent. It still managed to ring. Carry on. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah, no problem. There's an organisation called Gambling with Lives, And they keep deliberately ignoring what they're being told to do by the Gambling Commission with these numbers. And they've gone on TV and spouted this rubbish. They've had articles printed in the Daily Telegraph, the Daily Express, and on iNews. And as I say, you've got to blame the Gambling Commission for publishing these figures in the first place and saying these are the figures, because people will use them to say exactly what they want them to say. It's madness.
I did what was called quantitative analysis, which is stats, when I was at college 100 and something years ago, it feels like it. And basically, I wasn't bad at it, to be honest. Give me a set of figures and tell me what you want it to say, and I'll prove it. Yeah. And that's simple. To turn it to really simplistic terms, let's do a survey on gambling. Now we do it in the bookmakers, where we find out, funnily enough, everybody's a gambler. And that's 100% of the population of gambling. Or do we do it in the local Amish community, where we find that nobody's a gambler and nobody in the country gambles in, or anywhere in between? And do you ask someone, when you watch them just lose a bet, what they think of gambling, or do you ask someone after they just won a bet what they think of gambling? You're going to get two totally different answers. And also, I know some of these surveys, not rigged is the wrong phrase, but you're asking people who do you want to fill in the survey? Yeah. Well, people who want to fill in a survey have an axe to grind one way or the other. Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, they know, I'm too busy, mate. I'm not filling in a survey. The only people who want to do it is because they've got an axe to grind, and so you're not getting a realistic assessment, are you? That's the thing. No. Now, I don't think that 1%. I would guess at being about right. Personally, what do I know? That has to be added to the proviso. What do I know? Because I don't. So that's 1 in 100, 10 in 1,000. It's too many. And I fully agree there should be help for these people. And I fully agree that there should be interventions. When you see people losing £60,000 on the spin of a roulette wheel, then there needs to be interventions a long time before that happens. Yeah. That's because those are ridiculous figures. And anyone who thinks me or most people in racing would consider justifying that as being acceptable, well, you can't. I'd love to see what argument you've got, because I can't think of one. So, there does need to be the ability. There also needs the ability for the persons concerned to stop. No one stops an alcoholic from going down to Sainsbury's and buying another bottle of vodka, do they? No. Perhaps they should, in all honesty, but how you would police that's another matter. I don't know. Yeah. But it feels like they're picking on us and leaving everybody else alone. But again, I cannot emphasize enough that we do need to do more to support. Well, actually, we don't need to do more to support. The bookmakers need to do more to support. They've got that evidence to hand. They know. They know somebody's betting £10 here, £5 there, £2 lucky 15. Suddenly tries having 500 quid on a casino spin. Something's wrong somewhere. That's not normal, is it? And they should at the very least intervene to ask the question, even if that may be enough for you to stop chasing your losses, because you've had to wait for them to phone you back before you can place that bet. Yeah. So I think there are other ways and means, but never mind. Talking of the Gambling Commission, though. See what Ron did there? He's very clever, leading one thing into the other. Yeah. It's called the segue, I believe. Yeah. I put the comedy continues. Yeah. I'll let you lead this one, because I've just been waffling on. Well, I've titled this one, "The Gambling Commission admits frictionless affordability checks have the potential to cause confusion because different credit reference agencies can have different information about the same person." So basically what happens is, you might go to open an account with Sky Bet, and they will take all the details if you're prepared to give them. And they will then make a reference to a credit reference agency who will then feed them back information on you. You might then go to Ladbrokes and try to open an account with them, and they'll want the same information. They'll send all that through to a different credit reference agency, and you might be told by Sky Bet's people, lovely bloke, not got a problem in the world. But the Ladbrokes credit reference agency will say, might have an issue. He played the lottery last week. And so even the Gambling Commission themselves are now basically saying it can't be frictionless the way it's set up at the moment. But are they then therefore going to say, well, all these betting companies now can only use one credit reference agency? And is the information that this one reference agency has accurate?
I don't know. I mean, I went to log on to my Sky Bet account recently. I sent you a screenshot of what they were asking me, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
And it said to me, before you can go into your account, we need you to confirm your identity, etc., etc., etc. And it asked me to have certain documentation ready, passport, etc., this type of thing, to access my account. I just refused to do it. I just won't go on the Sky Bet accounts anymore. It's as simple as that.
I think you would have. I did have a life before I was only doing racing in the office.
Yeah.
I might not have been the best in the world. Or, it sounds like you're pompous when you think you know better than other people. I would have thought, that the Gambling Commission would have started the trial with Credit Reference Agency 1, whoever that may be. Put it out to tender if they're assuming they're paying these people, and start with one individual company.
Yeah.
And then they see how that works. Now, if that works perfectly, which it was never going to do, then they then go off to the other credit reference companies and say, if you want a piece of this pie, then these are the parameters that we expect you to use. You need to be exactly the same as company 1.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, then we'll just have company 1 as our only supplier, because it makes no difference to you and I, does it? At the end of the day. Now, how they went off, remembering this is only a trial, this is not everybody, and used more than one company without those companies talking to each other to make sure they were marking people in the same manner.
Yeah.
Is beyond comprehension,
isn't it?
So I have an Experian. I think we've all got credit ratings with all sorts of them, even if we don't know about them, basically. But say I've got one a 499 out of 500 with company 1. Well, surely it'd be easier to just compare that number with other numbers for other people than it would be to find I've got 672 with somebody else because they stopped theirs at 700, and I've got 17,643 with company 3 because theirs goes up to 20,000. You're not comparing like with like. It's pure common sense that you start with one company and see what happens. Now, I've written down here conspiracy. The trouble is, it's common sense, which apparently isn't that common.
No, it
isn't. Thought that one company picked for the trial. Conspiracy theorists, and I put in brackets, who me, ? May even suggest this was a pre-planned fail, with many in the anti-gambling lobby seeing credit agencies as far too easy for punters, as opposed to producing reams of paperwork and a pint of blood before you can place your £1 lucky 15.
Yeah.
Well, there are so many conspiracy theories going around on this Gambling Act review, and I'm probably joking, or am I? That wouldn't surprise me. Ron, you're as bad as I am, because your conspiracy theory is that this has always been planned by the bookies in the first place for affordability checks, so they can get.
Yeah.
So you might be right there as well, and it's to do with anti-money laundering. They keep it so close to their chest and do so many stupid things like this that no wonder people come up with fairly plausible explanations for what they're really up to behind the scenes. Now, I don't really think they're conspiring to stop this frictionless check work, because I think the government tried to make it quite clear. Well, the last government and this government have tried to make it quite clear they want the vast majority of tests to be totally frictionless. Now, the point behind that is you might not be willing to hand your paperwork in, Ron. I might not be willing to hand my paperwork in. But if it's behind the scenes and you don't know about it, you go to put your Sky Bet thing on, it pings in the background for about a hundredth of a second because it's all computerized. It instantly comes back, you've got a good enough credit rating. You don't even know they tested it.
Yeah.
Don't even know they checked it. So you and I wouldn't even know. As long as, and this is something we've been arguing for a long time, and there's evidence it's not working yet, it must not show up on your credit reports. Because it is, we know of people who've had a check from William Hill, and it's then appeared on their actual credit report has gone down because they've had a check from William Hill. And that can't be allowed to continue. If you've got to be allowed to at least ask if you can have a bet, not ask if you can have a bet, and then your credit rating goes down even further because you dared to ask. That's a real.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Big Brother is watching you, isn't he? I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it was 1984.
Yep. Which is a book for any young people out there.
Oh yeah.
You never know, there might be someone younger than us listening. You never know your luck. Anyway, we tried to land on something reasonably cheery to end our chit chat before we get to the race. And Ron said to me, because he likes doing it, it's Ron's turn. Ron wrote the list for this one. I think he tried to get his own back on me, to be honest with you. Come up with one for the Grand National. Now the handicap marks were allocated.
Early thoughts, please. Oh, I've got mine.
Thanks a lot. Off you go then.
Yeah, well, the first thing I thought was so obvious was that Mullins has kept Iron Maximus, last year's winner. He's kept that horse in the race to keep the weights down for another horse.
Mm-hmm.
So straight away, I'm looking all the Mullins runners, especially those owned by JP McManus. Other trainers are available, and I've come up with one that is actually with a different trainer, I believe.
Ooh.
Now, when I was putting my 10 to follow lines together for the post-racing members last year, back in November, I made sure that I had a horse called I Know the Way You're Thinking in at least one line, because when I saw it last year, I thought, out and out stayer, it could well be a national horse. At that time, it was only 6. It's only 7 now. But the race is becoming so easy because they've lowered the fences, straightened the landing sides. It's basically just another ordinary handicap steeplechase, as far as I'm concerned, run over a long trip with birch on the fences. Anyway, got off tangent. He turned up at Aintree last year, won easily, beating Iroko doing handstands. And Iroko is now 12 to 1 to win the national. At the start of the month, I Know the Way You're Thinking was 33 to 1. But then, as soon as the weights come out, 8 to 1 favourite. I didn't take the 33 to 1, I'm afraid. I'm far too busy doing my daily stuff to keep all these plates spinning. And Cheltenham's on my mind, not Aintree, and I just didn't even pay any attention. Do you know, I didn't even notice that the horse had run on February the 1st and been beaten just over 7 lengths by Galloping de Champs in the Irish Gold Cup. The horse is a 7-year-old. He's only had 9 runs over fences. Less than 10 years ago, such a horse wouldn't have even got a sniff of a Grand National because the track wouldn't have been considered suitable for it. But like I've just explained, it's not the same race anymore. So horses that are barely out of novice nappies, they can now win this race.
Yeah.
Now, I read one of the Irish pundits, David Jennings, I think it was, in the Racing Post, after I basically started doing all my stuff on this. And he'd come up and said, he'll be shorter than 5 to 1 if he turns up. If this was not a handicap, he'd be so short to beat this lot off level weights. And I 100% agree. I think this horse is good enough to actually place in a Gold Cup if they'd let him go there. He's a grade 1 steeplechaser that's going to be running in a handicap come April. If you can get the 8 to 1 about I Know the Way You're Thinking, I'd snap it up. It won't be 8 to 1 on the day. Can't be.
Yeah, I'm not going to be stupid enough to say you're right or you're wrong. We're really talking about the national this far in advance. What I say is, the one thing that makes me laugh, and I think I say this every year, but this is the one time everyone phones me up or texts me and says, can you tell me who's going to win the national?
Oh, I get that all the time. Yeah.
I mean, don't you worry about the Derby where it's level weights. You asked me about one where it's 4.25 miles over fences, only race on a couple of days a year.
Yeah.
On ground that's an unknown quantity at this stage. Oh, and don't forget it's a handicap as well. Thanks for that, everybody. You asked me for the wrong information. I sent Ron a shed load of emails that came out with from the handicap weights. The one I noticed was Paul Nicholls was the one I noticed out of those, and there's lots there to read, to be fair. Yeah, he's got 5 entered at the moment.
Yeah.
Hitman, Brave Man's Game, 3 under through 5, Can Do Kid and Stay Away Faye. He hopes that the fences will wake up Brave Man's Game. Now, it could be interesting if that does happen, because he was or is a class act. He's a grade 1 steeplechaser without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
However, he does seem to be on a downward curve. It's the Can Do Kid that caught my eye.
Ditto. Yeah.
Using quotes from the trainer so that I can be lazy and just copy them in. And I quote, he's a Coral Gold Cup winner and he went round Aintree last year. I'd be very happy with that weight.
Yeah.
Followed by, he might go to Kempton next Saturday for the Ladbrokes Trophy Handicap Chase. I need to discuss it with the owner. I wouldn't run him on very, very soft. It's that option on March the 1st at Newbury where he likes it just over 2.5 miles to give him a day out. Then the bit I really like, straight after the Topham in 2024 when he finished 3rd, I said to the owner there are 2 targets next year, the Coral Gold Cup and then the Grand National. So we've done one part of it, and it would be nice if he could do the other. He's got a nice profile for it. So we've got a trainer who says, I'd be very happy with that weight, tick box number 1. And the Nationals, not an afterthought, it's always been a target, tick box number 2. Now, when I looked yesterday, he was 25 to 1. And at 25-1, if I had to, and I don't do anti-post betting, I certainly don't do it for the national. If I had to put 140, it'd be Can Do Kid each way at 25-1. And you can mark that down, Ron, because I will scream and claim it if he wins, and I'll conveniently forget about it if he falls at the first.
He's very lightly raced for a 9-year-old. He's only been to the races 14 times.
Yeah. I mean,
eight runs over fences. A similar type of profile to, I know the way you're thinking. You think he's only had 8 or 9 runs as well over fences. You can now target. Basically, these are novices still, you know.
Yeah. Well, I agree the race isn't what it was. I had this argument down the pub the other night. It's another no-win argument, quite frankly. You can't have the national as it was with 6 or 8 horses dying every year. You can't. It's ridiculous to suggest we go back to it being like that. It's just not possible. We live in a different world now.
We do.
However, has it become too easy? So it's no longer the Grand National, to be honest with you. It probably has. It's now,
I think so.
It's now 4.25 mile handicap over different fences, but they're not necessarily anywhere near as bad as they used to be. However, that's the way the world is, and we have to roll with it and get on there.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue other than you're seeing more classy horses going for it now than you did in the past. And that in itself is a good thing. And why also another reason we get more finishes, because the top class horses are going for it. That's pushing the horses that should never have been there in the first place out of the handicap, so they can't possibly run. Horses that have fallen on their last 4 and pulled up on 3 before that used to get into the national in the 70s and the 80s. Yeah. Now there's no sign of them, thankfully. So they're not going to pull up. They're not going to fall. Fingers crossed. They're not going to fall over. They're not going to bring other horses down, and we're not going to get the carnage we've seen in the past. It might have been great entertainment, but that's not. So was sending kids up chimneys, probably.
Well, yeah.
1832.
Did you know there was not one faller in last year's Grand National?
Yes, I did, and I shall be watching. My wife, who doesn't particularly follow racing, but doesn't have a lot of choice. But the first thing she's, I can't watch it, and then the first thing she'll say afterwards, did they all get back safe? Yeah, because that's the interesting thing, and we have to remember that the 1% we're talking about, the problem gamblers, we're probably talking about 5% of the population or 10% of the population who gives them monkeys about horse racing. Yeah. To be honest, and yet 90% of the population do care about animal cruelty and RSPCA funding and all that sort of thing. So we have to remember that we are beholden up to a point with making racing as safe as possible for the contestants. Yeah. So long may that continue. I actually don't have a problem with it. I'm turning into a softie in my old age. Right. Are we on to the actual racing next?
I think we is. Yeah. Now, apologies for the shortage of races to discuss, but we'd actually picked one over in Ireland, and it went down to 3 runners. 2 of the races we're going to talk to are down to 5, I believe it is. We've got a couple that you can actually bet each way 1, 2, 3.
Amazing.
But isn't it? But we're going to start with the Ask at 150. And I've started by basically saying we're struggling to find races with decent field sizes this month. Yeah. And here we've just got 5 going to post. 7 of the last 10 runnings of this have gone to horses that were on the front 3 on the tissue. But we've only had 1 winning favourite. So straight away I'm looking at one of Lowry's Bar and the Changing Man. Now both of these have been supported since the market opened. And Nicky Henderson trains the current favourite, Jinko Blue. Yeah. Now that horse was backed in originally to 10-11, as he's back out now to 6-5. And I think it's significant that the 2 that are sitting second and third are both seen support. Joe Tizard, now he trains the Changing Man, and he won this with his only other entry for the race in 2023. His dad won it twice in 2019 and 2020. And it could be that this is a race they set out to win each year if they've got the horse for it. My problems with the horse are twofold. First off, he arrives a maiden over fences. 5 times a runner-up. I just do not like horses that appear to like at least one backside in front of them. It's something in their heads that they just don't want to be a leader of a field. That's the impression I get. Second, he only gets £5 off the favourite Jinko Blue, but he's officially £13 inferior to that horse. So effectively, he needs to not only decide he wants to pass the one in front, but he's also got to improve by around about half a stone to get within a length of the favourite. Yeah. I'm going for Lowry's Bar. He was beaten by Jinko Blue last time out, beaten just over 2 lengths off level weights. Tomorrow, he gets £3, and he's always looked to me like a proper jumper of a fence. He also arrives as a 7-year-old, and they've won 2 of the last 3 of these. Jinko Blue is a 6-year-old, and only one of that age has won this race in the last decade. I'm going to go with Lowry's Bar to get revenge on £3 better terms.
Yeah, I don't blame it. It was a 3-runner race when they met last time, very slowly run.
Yeah.
They both made a hash of the third last. You would think that Lowry's Bar at those weights has got as good a chance as any of reversing the form. I can't disagree. Yeah. I'm going to get the people with those nice white coats and the canvas cardigans to come and take me away, because I'm going to back leave of absence.
All right.
28-1 outsider in a field of 5. Get me locked up, somebody, please. I think, he's lightly raced for an 8-year-old. He's only had the 5 starts under rules, a debut third in a point-to-point. On top of that, he won 2 of his 3 bumpers. His only start over hurdles here at Ascot last year, when taking a minor event fairly, well, not even last year, so the year before, when taking a minor event fairly comfortably in 2022, the year before that even. Off for over 2 years, he switched tables from Chris Gordon to Anthony Honeyball, debuted over fences at Kempton in November. Very easy to back, and it's not unreasonable to think he would have needed the race after 2 years off, and the experience. He ran a blinder. He's beaten less than two lengths by Alberico Lord, despite making an absolute hash of the last. Now, I accept this is not a handicap, so we're only using ratings to get an idea of who should be where and who shouldn't be. Someone explained to me why he was beaten less than 2 lengths by Alberico Lord, who was instantly rated 144 after they met at level weights, yet somehow leave of absence is rated 127. Do feel free to explain that to me, answers on a postcard. My point is, I don't think he would be anywhere near to 28-1 if he was sat there with a marker 141. Absolutely not. He wouldn't be, I'm sure. Now, he's entitled to improve. He's very, very lightly raced. Anthony Honeyball isn't known for tilting at win balls particularly. I wish we could guarantee each way, but 500 has got to be a win bet, really. I just think 28-1 is a massive, massive price. Yeah. Will he win? Probably not. I wouldn't fall over in shock if he did.
Yeah.
That surprised you. I bet you out of those 5, you'd have been the last one you'd have guessed that.
I just totally neglected him because I was just thinking, right, the winner's in the front 3, ignore whatever else is there. But yeah, now I'm looking at it. Yeah, he moved from Chris Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a break of 758 days before he ran second to Iberico Lord.
Yeah, and he might bounce after that. That does happen, looking for the negatives. There's no guarantee he's going to improve, as I hope he will. But he's certainly entitled to strip fitter. So I would have had him on about 141 on that run with Iberico Lord. 141, and then what's he got to improve then? He's got to improve about £6 from that. I don't see that as an impossibility for a horse that's been off for over 2 years. Not impossible at all. He'll clean a stone cold last and make me look like an idiot, but once you spot something like that, you can't go back and then it wins and then go, oh, I meant to mention that one. and then you don't. So there you go, 10p maximum, everybody.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go, and I'm not giving it back. I'm not giving it back to you if you lose that. But 28-1, leave absence, 150 Ascot. Why not? At least you can see my logic. You don't have to agree with it, but you can listen to it and go, he doesn't know. He's been on the drink again, or whatever. But that's my one. On to the 240 at Haydock, I believe.
Yeah, we've got 8 going to post here, and it's actually impossible to profile. In the last 6 years, I know I picked it. Yeah, in the last 6 years, we've had winners age 6, 7, 8, 9, 7, 11. On the marker position of the 6 winners, we're 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. The only thing I can pin a flag on is the weight range, which, if you were carrying between 11 stone and 11.6, you were one of the 8 of the last 10 winners. That rules out last year's winner, Botox Has. It also rules out the 3rd favourite, Nemean Lion, who has actually been punted from 8-1 into 5-1 since this market opened. So I might be right, I might be wrong. Weight ranges and a tissue price of 7-1 or less, because 8 of the last 9 winners fit the SP stat, suggests that one of Beauport or Thunder Rock is going to win this. Horses coming here having finished unplaced last time out have a good record. 7 of the last 10 winners fit that trend. And so I've got to go with Thunder Rock. Beauport finished 3rd last time out, and Thunder Rock finished 4th, just out the frame. He's won 50% of his 8 runs over hurdles, and he's placed in another. Whilst he's about as trustworthy as some MPs discussing problem gambling stats, I'll go 2080 at 7-1 in an 8-runner race. Thunder Rock.
Well, yeah, it's a tricky race. I can't pretend.
Isn't it just? Yeah.
I'll come up with another one out of left field because he's drifted.
Yeah,
Beauport's probably got the best form, the favourite. He's classy. He ran the best trial, went third in the long walk hurdle last time out behind Crembo and Hidden Valley Lake. But he's yet to win over this trip over hurdles, so he does stay even further over fences, so it's not a stamina issue. He might make me look stupid and win it and land the odds. I'm going in each way with Indiana Dream for the O'Neill team.
Oh, tongue tie first time.
Yeah, a bumper winner at Fontainebleau in France. He was then sent over to Willie Mullins. He won a maiden hurdle at Fairy House, and the runner-up has won 4 times since to frank that form. He then went over fences and won at Navan, and then he's been off for over a year before he changed stables. Back out at Windsor over fences, ran absolute stinker. He's beaten a mile or so into 4th place. But he may well have needed the run, and maybe fences isn't his game. He's back over hurdles now, 20-1. He was 9-1 when I wrote, and I thought that looked potentially each way value. 20-1 now, back over hurdles. John Joe going well. I think he's got an each way chance. A word for Botox has for Gary and Josh Moore. I've noticed their horses are coming back into form at last.
Yeah, they've had 5 winners this week, haven't they?
Yeah, and he's had a stinker of a season, and Gary's not been happy.
Yeah.
He's not been a happy bunny. He's a competitive man. What do you expect? So I wouldn't be surprised if Botox has runs a really big race here as well. But I'm not unhappy with Indiana Dream at all. Back over hurdles, I think he could be a different beast entirely.
Yeah.
So that'll and in the JP McManus colours, as you say, first time tongue tie. So all things are possible. 20-1 each way. Indiana Dream, 240 Haydock. What am I doing? I'll be retiring to the south of France if all these come in. 3:37 at Ascot next, I believe.
Yeah, 6 going to post here. Last year's winner, Pictori, turns up again. You'd not rule his chances out of winning it again. 3 of the front 4 on the tissue are now aged 10. And only one of that age group has won this in the last 10 years. Silviniaco Conti, also trained by Paul Nichols, back in 2016. 8 of the last 10 winners were front 2 on the tissue. So that basically suggests to me that one of Pictori or Corbett's Cross is going to win this. Of that pair, official ratings actually suggest the Irish one, Corbett's Cross, is £2 the better horse. And tomorrow they race off level weights. The market can barely split them at the moment. You've got Pictori at 7-4, Corbett's Cross at 2-1. I'm going to go with Corbett's Cross. In the last 6 years, we've only had 1 winning favourite to this, but we've had 4 winning second favourites. So unless they flip-flop, the Irish one will do for me. I'm going for Corbett's Cross.
Well, we're going to agree to differ once again. Could be the entire lot at this rate. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough old race. Do you know, Pictori came back from a win to win, make all and win over course and distance in late November after his 3rd wind-up. Amazingly. So he's obviously got breathing issues or had breathing issues. Hopefully he's over those, but you never know. I just think Corbett's Cross and 3rd favourite Long Presse probably want more of a test of stamina than this 2 mile 5.
Maybe,
now, if Pictori and Harry Cobden can get to the front, now this is my hopeful reading of the race. It's always hopeful, isn't it? Is that he's going to set a very sedate pace on the front end, leaving them to bunch up behind, and then he can quicken up half a mile or so from home. I'm not convinced his opponents can get into top gear in time to catch him. Right. If that's the way the race unfolds. Now, there's not stupid trainers and they're not stupid jockeys here, so they may well not let him have his own way on the front end, which would be the concern, I suppose. But I think that this trip suits him better than it suits anyone else. In which case, I think he can make all and come home alone.
Yeah, well, you may well be right. I think it's more to do with age grouping than anything else. That's put me right off several of these. Yeah,
you could well be 100% right. We'll find out after the race, but not before.
We will and all. Yeah.
Okay, 1 to go. They haven't been inspiring races you picked here, Ron.
Well, it's not been inspiring for about a week.
No. At least Ron now knows how difficult it is when I pick the race and he goes, you pick one with 5 runners here. It's very difficult not to pick one with 5 runners, I'm afraid. But still, on to the what's the last one we got? Ascot, Haydock 350.
Haydock 350. Yeah.
What do you reckon? This is an interesting race. I'm intrigued what you make of this.
I thought that. Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Well, it's another race that, as we speak, we can actually play 3 places each way if you want to go each way on something. I'm looking at the last 2 runnings of it. You might well need to be doing that. Up until 2023, this was dead easy to find the winner of. You just dutched the first two in the market and collected the prize money. Last two runnings, 17-2 and 12-1, both going off 7th best on the tissue as the tapes went up. What I'm looking for, based on the stats and trends that I can apply to a graded race, are 6-year-olds trading a single figure price. Now, they account for 6 of the last 10 winners using that age grouping, and 9 of the last 10 winners were trading 17-2 or shorter. So that gives me 3 at the moment. I've got Derry Hassan Paddy, Kepler's Law, and Roaring Conquest. You can dutch those 3 and get a profit out of it. That's my plan.
All right.
6 of the last 10 winners arrived having won last time out. All 3 fit that stat. I'm going to work with the favourite, Derry Hassan Paddy. A negative would be that Lucinda Russell, who trains this horse, has sent 6 for this race to date and has only had 1 hit the frame. Never had a winner of it yet. However, she's the only trainer in the race to show a level stake profit in this kind of race at this track, albeit she's just plus 1 point profit from 19 runners having had 2 winners. I'll say none of the other trainers with runners here have got any kind of plus stat to warrant a respectful tip anyway. It's all I've got to hang my hat on, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go with Derry Hassan Paddy, yet to be beaten. Well, that'll do for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've written down he's an obvious contender, arrives here unbeaten, point to point, a bumper, a maiden hurdle, and most recently a Class 2 at Windsor. He showed a real battling attitude, got back up after being passed that day to win by a nose. I don't pass over him lightly, but he has to give £3 to Moon Rocket, and I think that may just about swing the balance in his favour. He was bought for $92,000 after winning a point to point at Curramore, won his first 2 starts over hurdles at Doncaster and Southwell with ease. If you watch the replay of his last one, where he was beaten a neck into second at Doncaster, you tell me how he didn't get the race in the stewards' room. Because I don't understand it. The winner took him literally from one side of the track all the way to the other and almost put him through the rails. Okay, he probably didn't have to stop riding, and I guess that's why the winner kept the race. But he was intimidated and hassled all the way. He'd be very unlucky if he gets that similar treatment again this afternoon. I think he can get back to winning ways. I think the £3 will be enough to make the difference. It's you can't knock an unbeaten horse like Derry Hassan Paddy. So anything is possible. I just think giving £3 to Moon Rocket, who won his earlier races very impressively, I have to say, to my eyes anyway. And I just discount the last one. I count him as the moral victor, even though he's got a 2 next to his name and not a 1. Yeah. So
when I was looking at it, I did look at this horse, but do you know what put me off it? He's a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I noticed
Seven of that age have gone for this race over the last 10 years, and only 1's placed. I'm a stickler for age groupings. I always start with age groupings. And that is the only thing that put me off him, I'll be honest with you.
Well, that's the whole reason. Well, not the whole reason we do these podcasts, but the whole reason you and I work is because we don't come from if we came from the same angle, we came up with exactly the same horses.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
that would be dull as ditch water, wouldn't it? So we don't want to do that. One of us may be right, one of us may be wrong. We could be both wrong. Who knows? Yeah. We'll have to wait and see till after the race. But I'm quite happy with my logic behind Moon Rocket, as I am with the logic behind all the others. It doesn't mean that the horses don't understand logic, so that doesn't mean things. But as long as they don't understand if they're a 28-1 shot in the first one, who knows?
This is true.
These things happen. But that's the end of our horses. And now, since we don't have any music to play, we have to go, Ron, what are the OMS?
Right, okay. It's not been a bad old fortnight for the OMS. I'm going to concentrate on what's happened more recently because I'm spinning that many plates at the moment. I thought, well, if I go back to Tuesday last week, it's going to take me about a month to sort it all out. So I'm going with the first one I've got on my list. Won yesterday, a horse called Yeeland. 5-1, into 3-1, into 5-2, and with a flame, won at 13-8.
Winner's a winner.
Next on the list was No Tackle. Now, in the scribblings on the rated race, I did say that this race, that there was nothing fancied, but he was the most fancied of all the unfancied horses in the race, and he was my top rated. He was 12-1 into 7-1 in the morning, drifted out slightly to 8-1, absolutely bolted in.
Can I take a guess he was a gelding with that name?
You could probably guess that was why he was named, yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, earlier in the week, a horse called Dance Thief. He was 12-1 into 13-2 overnight, and I thought, hello, that'll do. I went and took the 13-2. In the update newsletter, he's gone back out to 12-1. So I took the 12-1. Then they nibbled again, bought him back into 10-1. He ended up winning at 11-1.
Very nice.
I thought that was very, very nice. That'll do for me. They were three of the best this week.
Plenty to choose from. That's the main thing.
Oh, there is, yeah. Oh, there is at the moment. Yeah.
And what do we think for our something for the weekend then? What's your nap of the week, I suppose?
Yeah, I like my reasoning for Thunder Rock at least placing, and I've put that one up as a 2080. It's round about 7-1 at the moment, and you will get a run for your money. Any horse that's won 50% of his races over hurdles shouldn't be 7-1.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. Yeah, don't disagree with that. I'm going to go with Moon Rocket in the 350 at Haydock.
Yeah.
I do think he was unlucky last time out, and I think if there is such a thing as karma or whatever, he'll get his get his own back Saturday afternoon. So fingers crossed for that.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Oh, it's tiring, isn't it? This stuff.
Yeah.
So
what have you got planned for Valentine's night?
Steak and kidney pudding.
Oh, you old romantic, you.
You asked.
You old romantic. Is that with a prosecco or what?
Well, we went to a garden centre yesterday that has a butcher's in it to look at the meat, and it wasn't badly priced, to be honest with you. Most butchers around here are incredibly expensive, so you end up buying it in a supermarket, and it's not the same quality. I agree.
Oh no.
But they have their own homemade steak and kidney puddings, and it's not something we get very often.
Okay, I can see him now with two violinists behind him and everything. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. I might even have mashed potato with it. You never know your luck. But yeah. No, that's what are you up to?
Oh, I booked a table about a month ago at a restaurant locally called The Manor.
No, right.
I am an old romantic.
Well, I'm old. I'm just not the romantic.
Yeah, love it. Brilliant.
Well, enjoy it, and everybody else enjoy it.
Yeah. I bet
enjoy your Valentine's Day. Don't spend too much. You won't have enough to bet on Saturday, will you?
Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
Right. Anything else to discuss?
I think we're done for the week. Yeah.
I suppose what we can point out is there'll be no podcast next week because if the roads are clear and there's no accidents and my car's working, etc.,
yeah,
I'm off on the pre-Cheltenham stable tours.
Yeah, it's getting closer, isn't it? Getting closer.
It's sneaking up on us. It's always good fun. Read the body language, see the horses, get some photos. I promise Ron a write-up of sorts, depending on how much time I get afterwards. So Ron will point that out where that is on the website or whatever once I've done it. So keep an eye out. Next Friday I shall be at Dan Skelton's yard. So no podcast, but hopefully if we get some winners out of it, it'll be more than worthwhile. Yeah,
he'll be laying out one or two handicap winners, won't he?
I would think so. Whether he tells us about them, is another matter.
No, well, that's another matter. Yeah. You'll be lucky.
We'll try and find out. Try and read that body language if we possibly can. Yeah. So on that note, I hope the sun's shining where you are. It's shining here, but it is cold. Can't have it both ways, I suppose. Enjoy your racing. Bet sensibly. We might go on about affordability checks and that, but the reality is we should all be betting within our means. I can't ever argue against that. I never have argued against that, to be fair. Let's hope we've given you a win or two between us, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time.
We will and all. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, and you, everybody. Take care.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Post Racing, the site for winners.